self-control. Her gravity is all that I know. She's over me. She's over me. She comes with her hypnotic dance. She holds me here with only a glance. She's over me. She's over me. The claws in my heart, I can't let go, I'm breaking apart, controlling me, controlling me. Oh my God. Hold on to your seats, everybody. I'm going to have to relaunch this peg because my camera's not currently plugged in, but it will be shortly, so just stand on by here. I'll be right back with more of the Paranormal Portal. Did it work? All right, guys. I think it worked. Hey, it's me, and I'm back, and I'm glad you guys are all here. Wow, what a rookie deal, huh? I didn't even think to check it, because, I don't know, I was messing around with some of the connections. I actually got something in one of my USB ports, so I was messing around with it, trying to get it out, and I had unplugged the camera to make room by the port there, and I forgot to plug it back in. So, I'm glad that worked without having to restart the whole stream. I did it really quick, but, Brent... finally got it fixed, so you should be able to pull it off and listen. Finally got it fixed. I got something fixed. Sorry, I'm just checking out the chat. I'm not sure what I did, but I hope it was good. Welcome to the show, guys. This is the Paranormal Portal Bedtime Stories From Beyond. I'm your host, Brent Thomas. And outside of that incredibly rookie beginning, I think we're good to go now. So I hope you're all ready, because it's time for bed. I don't know if I'm live or not here. This is really weird. All right. Strangeness, ladies and gentlemen. We'll try this again. The more the merrier. We'll see if this is working. Am I there now? Okay. Well, hopefully it'll come up now. I don't know what the hell's going on. I know that I know I had that rookie start, but it seems to be working now. I hope it is. I'm not sure what happened there, but it looks like I'm live. So welcome to the show, everybody. I hope you're all ready, because It's time for bed. All right. This is the Paranormal Portal Bedtime Stories from Beyond. I'm your host, Brent Thomas, and I think I got everything working finally, so God help me. I'm sure we're okay now. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for all the up and downs and stuff, and I see that the count went way down as a result, but it looks like it's climbing back up. People are finding it again. I apologize, everybody. I don't know what the hell the problem is, but I think I got it sorted here. I hope I got it sorted. We'll just have to keep an eye on this. So, wow, what a weird start to the show. Part of it was my own error, but I think I got that sorted, and then I did have it connected, and boom, then it stopped. So I don't know what the hell went on, but I think we're okay now. I think so. And I do apologize again, but I'm giving it the best I got. But yes, I heard that. And thank you for mentioning that, Mr. Kukowski, Joe. I think he said he was talking about Duke getting the episode 81 released, which should be, again, World Bigfoot Radio. It should be my episode when I was interviewed on World Bigfoot Radio. So if you're not familiar with the show, please go check out World Bigfoot Radio on YouTube. Just do a search, World Bigfoot Radio, and you'll find Brian Sullivan's channel, and he is Duke, and he has uploaded that show tonight. I guess he had a hell of a lot of problems himself, so but it should be up and running, and so it is available. Please don't go until after this show if you don't mind. I'd love to keep you here for the duration of our journey tonight, but yeah, I think it's good. I think we're good. And thank you all for being tenacious and continuing to connect here with me tonight as I was having my issues. But it looks like we're solid now. I got solid green bars on the streaming, and everything looks good. So here's to hope. Here's to hoping. Yeah, exactly, Duke. The show is up now, he says. And it's a brilliant show. I mean, if you're interested in cryptids of all kinds, not just Bigfoot, but all kinds, the Dogman, the Giants, the, Wendigo, the Googways and even rakes and things like that. You can find episodes covering it on World Bigfoot Radio. And I'm here to tell you, I don't think anybody does a lot of these different various cryptids better than Duke, because he's not only thorough, but he gets his boots on the ground himself. And he gets out there and does his own looking as well, and has a bunch of amazing evidence of his own to support his theories and ideas and stuff. But he's also incredibly well versed on an entire scope of things. And I always say that Duke will forget more about cryptids than I'll ever learn. He's just one of those guys. He's just got it so dialed in, and it's so much a part of his life. So definitely check out World Bigfoot Radio if you would. And also, a little plug. I don't know if I need to plug the Sasquatch Chronicles, because that's just an amazing show all the time. And honestly, Wes has been, I think, at the forefront of all of this for all of us. People that are doing, paranormal and cryptid kind of shows. And but also check out the Confessionals with Tony Merkel, and you can find his YouTube channel is up and coming as well. It's growing fast, and there's no wonder, because the shows he puts out are absolutely amazing. The great interviewer, and if you like the Sasquatch Chronicles, you'll love the Confessionals as well, because it's really that well done. I mean, it's really on par with Sasquatch Chronicles as far as production quality and everything. It really is top notch. So we got like 3 amazing shows affiliated here with the Portal. One is World Bigfoot Radio with Duke, and for information wise, nobody else comes close. Then there's Wes and the Sasquatch Chronicles, amazing show. He's an epic interviewer and does a great job of giving people a voice to tell their stories. And now again, the Confessionals does a great job, but they cover all of the paranormal as well. So there's a lot of amazing shows in this little nook that we've carved out. And I'm not trying to say that the Portal is comparable to those shows, any of them, but I'm doing my best. We're getting there little by little. But those are some shows that I listen to regularly. So Great information, great topics, great conversations, and just really nice guys. All of them are just amazing people. So, and Duke's regularly in our chat room. So if you come into the chat room, if you're listening out there but aren't chatting, you can visit with Duke Brian Sullivan in our chat room. Pretty much every episode, he's always here, and he's been so incredibly supportive of the portal. So a special thank you, Duke, and I'm really honored to have been on your show, and I can't wait to listen to it after our show tonight. So, but this is the Bedtime Stories, and this is our forum for just some ghost stories, just little hour-long episodes throughout the week to keep you guys entertained and to keep you plugged into the portal as much as I can. Because, this is a labor of love, and loving's a lot more fun when you're not doing it alone. I can't even believe I said that out loud. Oh, my God. But you know what I mean. As derogatory as that may have sounded, it was actually more altruistic in my head. Oh, man. It's been a long day, ladies and gentlemen. I've been up since 2:30, and then I slept for an hour and then got up again. And so I'm just kind of punchy right now. So I hope you'll forgive me my little quirks, I guess. But I got a story I've had pulled up for several days because it was really long. I didn't have a chance to do it on the last Bedtime Story show, but it looks like a really good one, and it's coming from Ohio. Okay, so and this is Diane Swiger's neck of the woods, and actually Jerry Klein, I think, is in Ohio as well. And so if you're curious about Ohio, let's get into this and see what the hell's going on there. I think you all are just politely ignoring my comment. I'm looking at the chat and nobody's even acknowledged it. So I apologize if I offended anybody. It wasn't meant to be a really horrible comment, just tongue-in-cheek, fun. I don't know. But then again, everything's always funny in my head, and when it comes out, it kind of has a different take sometimes. So let's see what's going on in Ohio. Yeah, everything does happen in Ohio. You're right, Visker. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, Visker. All right. Hey, Gemini, good to see you. What comment, Duke? You missed it. Thanks, brother. Glad to see I have your attention. All right. Let's see what's going on here. Okay, so typically when I tell people that I grew up in a haunted house, I get a grab bag of mixed results. Some ask questions, and others just seem really, really uncomfortable. But I've come to accept all of it as a side effect of how I was raised. Maybe I should start with a little background of the area, property, and home before I get to the details. I grew up in Ashtabula. It looks like that's right, Ashtabula, Ohio, which is located right in the northeast corner of Ohio between Lake Erie and Pennsylvania. It's a cold region with very little commerce, and life is poor, to say the least. The home I grew up in used to sit along the lakefront, but when erosion started taking it under our house and its twin were moved to its current location. The property in which it sits used to be a peach orchard, and the sole owner of the orchard lived in a small white house 2 doors down. Pearl was an elderly woman at the time, by the time my family moved in, but her memories and mind were extremely sharp. Her story is sad, but ties into the tale, and I'm about to weave for you. She was married fairly young to the son of a peach farmer, and their home was built between where the 2 houses now sit. It was a large gray home with white trim. Pearl and her husband had 6 kids. And on a January night, their house burned to the ground. And the only survivors were Pearl and her husband. All 6 children were killed. Oh, my God. That's so devastating. Oh. The children ranged in age from age 3 to 11. Needless to say, Pearl's husband was riddled with guilt for not saving his children, and Pearl stated he cried all the time. He could take no more. 2 months after that fire that destroyed her life, Pearl found her husband hanging from the tree in the backyard. The tree still stands to this day. Well, fast forward to 1987, it was 9 years I was 9 years old, and in walks a young family, not knowing the history or stories surrounding our new home, and it didn't take long for us to begin to notice things. It started out really pretty innocently. You know, the sound of footsteps up and down the stairs, and my little brother, who was 3 at the time, talking about the shadow man on the stairs. These could easily be explained away, and so they were, but then things started happening that weren't so easily explained away. It was 2 a.m. when our first episode happened. My father was at the time working for a long-haul trucking company and was really gone quite a bit, and it was on one of the occasions that we were awoken by a loud whistling sound coming from the basement. I remember how funny it seemed at the time, like a scene out of I Love Lucy. Me and my mom creeping down the stairs in our nightgowns, baseball bats raised to the heavens just in case we had the whistling bandit hanging out in our basement. What we found was my brother's old red robot walking across the floor. Now, the strangeness of this situation is probably not hitting you yet. Let me elaborate. My brother had not played with his robot in over 2 years. The robot not only required batteries, but water in order to operate correctly, and it only whistled when the remote was pressed. And all 3 things were missing from this robot when my mom inspected it. The incident was creepy, and what happened next was just terrifying. My father had a habit when he was home. He would go for a morning jog around 5 a.m. every day, and this day was no different. Dad got up, and I could hear him go out the back door and the crunch of his shoes on the snow going down the driveway, and within 3 minutes the back door slammed open, and what I thought was my father came running up the stairs. I heard my mother say, "What are you doing?" before she screamed. And when I went in to see what had happened, she was clammy and looked absolutely terrified. And here is what she told me. She too had heard my dad leave. And then the running up the stairs, and she had kind of yelled at my dad because she didn't want him waking up my brother, when all of a sudden she was being held down on her side and someone whispered in her ear, "I know what you did." And that's when she screamed. We searched the house from top to bottom and even had my father check when he got home, and there was no one in that house, and only one set of footsteps in the snow left by my dad leaving for his jog. And then just as things happened, they stopped instantly, as if a switch was clicked. And then the second wave hit with a vengeance. By this time, I'm an adult with my own child, and my brother is a teenager, so about 8 years had lapsed. The first indication that things were not right was when I first brought home my son from the hospital and then went to do laundry in the basement. I was alone in the house and made sure that every door and window in the house was locked and secure before I left my brand new baby sleeping in his bassinet while I went down to start the next load. I was halfway back up the stairs when the basement door slammed shut on me. Oh God, that would be horrible. So I ran up the stairs, and at this point in time thinking a draft must have slammed it shut, but I would open it and it would get about 3 inches open, and then something would push it and it would slam in my face. We did this 3 times before I had enough, and I yelled out that they had to let me up now, and the door popped open. My son was not only still sleeping, but no one was there, and all the windows were closed. The next incident was when my son was looking out the back door, and I said, "I like that man." He was 2 at the time, and unfortunately I couldn't see the man he was talking about. Overactive imagination, I thought, and I went back to what I was doing. This happened every day for over a year, and finally I asked him if his friend had a name. "No, I don't talk to him. He just leans against that tree." Now, yes, you've guessed it. It was the old Buckeye tree where Pearl's husband had hanged himself. You talk about chills. In this time, minor incidents were also going on in the house. We would have paper floating off the computer desk, hovering in the air and then landing back on the desk, and We would have glasses of water appear in our kitchen when no one had filled one, and things would come up missing, and my son's toys would seemingly play on their own, and I had a Finding Nemo stuffed doll come hurling at me out of the toy room, not gently dropping on the floor. It was it was spinning like a football. My mom was hit in the leg by a block that was supposed to be in the block bin behind a closed door of my son's playroom. And then there were the footsteps. They were no longer happening only at night. It was an all day long up and down the stairs. Sometimes it sounded like a stampede. It was so loud. And then there was the "Mommy" that constantly whispered in my ear. Day or night I could hear it. But I got called Mommy by some unforeseen child daily. All the pictures we took during this time frame had issues. We would change the batteries in the camera, buy a new camera, and even tried only using digital. Nothing would clear up the photos. We would have blue streaks dancing around our heads and shadows hovering over the tables or strange swirls in our faces. And we thought that nothing could be worse than this. Well, we didn't realize that they were just warming up. The real surprises were yet to come. In 2005, we were chosen by our cat to be his family. And I say this because he walked in our back door, uninvited, and has been with us since. His name is Sherman, and although we sometimes think he has a screw loose, he's basically a good cat and one that absolutely loves children. And when he first came into the house, things started happening. We would hear what we thought were the neighbors fighting, but turned out to be something else. Our neighbors had moved because strange things were happening in their house as well, and so they left. So our house, we thought, would now be silent. It was one night when we finally heard what it said. "Get it out," was yelled in a woman's voice. My mom thought I had said it. I thought my mom had said it. And once we realized that there was no other explanation, we started to get worried. Then my cat went into the front sitting room one night and started to freak out. I mean, he was literally jumping off the walls, screeching, hissing, and appearing to be genuinely terrified. He was hissing and spitting at the far right corner of the room. I went in to try and get him out, but he ended up with a very nice scar on my arm instead. Finally, I yelled out, "Leave him alone," and the front curtain lifted up and then drifted down like someone was holding it up. And then my cat was fine. We also were having thermostat issues. Our furnace was always set at 70, and it had always been on that for years now, but all of a sudden, it would jump up to around 90 degrees, and we would be sweating on a 10 below zero day. I thought my son was playing with it, and he would always deny it when I would ask him, and finally I took him by the hand and explained to him that we couldn't do that because we couldn't do that with this thermometer, because it would catch the house on fire. And I pushed it back down to 70. I was about 3 steps away when I heard it click back on. I turned around and wouldn't you know it, the thermostat was back on 90. I started to take a step back to it when I heard what I can only explain as a grunt, growl, yell kind of noise. Obviously male, obviously not in the mood to be playing around with me with the thermostat, so I took my son and started walking away when I heard that same male voice grunt, "Get out." And so I did. I left the house and called my mom on her cell phone, and I said I will not step into that house until it is taken care of. That day we had a priest come in to bless the house, but it didn't help. If anything, it really did make it worse. Now my dad was seeing shadows hanging out at the end of the bed. We all felt pinched, slapped, and pushed sometimes, but the worst part was that there were times when the room you were sitting in felt like it was falling. I can't really explain this part because it would happen so fast, but it always happened during dinners. We would sit down either in the dining room or living room, which were not in the same area of the house, and we would hear a loud boom and then feel the floor falling about 6 inches. This happened twice, so we called some experts to check the foundation of the house, the plumbing, and anything we could think of, and everything was fine. So we had finally had it. In 2006, we moved to Florida and now live in a ghost-free zone. We all sleep better. We all have stopped smoking. And for the first time in his life, my son is able to sleep through the night peacefully. As for the house, it was purchased by a good friend of ours with the understanding that it was haunted. He has since told us that he plans on selling the house very soon. Apparently, they don't like him either. Wow, that's crazy. Now, here's the thing. With blessings, having someone come in and bless your house is really a leap of faith. And the reason I say this is because we oftentimes have these beautiful images of these religious leaders, be they Christian, be they shamanistic, be they pagan, whatever. We have these ideas of who they are, and we think that they are these pious, strong, spiritual people, and we trust them to come in and clear a house and to make the bad things go away. Now, here's the problem. Here's the fallacy with that kind of faith is that, quite frankly, you don't know who's coming into your house. He might be less holy than you are, He or she might have so many issues and problems and fractured soul that even though they may know the way to do these things, they may understand what words to use, what parts to read, and where to sprinkle the water or the sage or the herbs or whatever. Whatever they are performing is subject to their state of being, because these rituals are not powerful in and of themselves. I mean, they are to a degree, but this is so much more magnified by the person doing it. It's the faith of the person. It's the strength of their spirituality that makes these rituals powerful. And so if you got some broken person that's got a closet full of skeletons coming in, and for this sake, let's say Christianity, reading a Bible and sprinkling water around, hell, he might as well be spraying Kool-Aid, and reading comic books, because that's about how effective it's going to be. You can't purge darkness with darkness, or being broken. It really has to be done by somebody who is spiritually powerful. So, or spiritually clear and spiritually, focused. Having someone unfocused do it it's probably going to aggravate the situation worse, which is I'm not saying that for sure is what was going on in this house. Quite frankly, it could just be that the entity was much stronger than they thought, and just merely having a priest come in and sprinkle water and say blessings in the house wasn't enough. Perhaps they needed so much more. But anyway, I just want to make sure to point that out, because just because somebody has a title does not mean that they are pious or they are holy or they are spiritual or powerful. It just means they learned enough stuff to get a title. And there are priests who are nearly atheists themselves. They have a hard time believing their own stuff. And so, and that is true of, I'm sure, every other religion as well. That is not just indictment of Christianity. It's any faith has people that have a title but not the faith. So that's just a FYI, my opinion. But I really believe I'm right on with this one. And the same thing is true for exorcisms. So you have a priest come in to do exorcisms. Well, if they got some problems in them, they're not going to be really effective in driving out a demon, So just bear that in mind. It's probably best in cases like this to cover a few faiths, maybe have some shaman come in, some priest, and then maybe someone else, a pagan practitioner or something. Just a variety of different cleansing methods, and hopefully together, if not individually, then together maybe it will be enough to clear your house. But yeah, pretty wild stuff, huh? I think that was a good story, though. I like that one. I hope you guys enjoyed it. The phone lines are always open as well, ladies and gentlemen. 720-923-0500 if you want to call in and be a part of the show. And by the way, I did upload tomorrow is a holiday, but there's still going to be a Paranormal Portal podcast. So you can download that as of midnight Eastern time, I think. So it's probably going to be available pretty quick. But you can download it and have a listen. It's talking about poltergeists is tomorrow's podcast. And hope you guys enjoy it, but definitely continue to spread the word on those if you would, please. It certainly helps. Helps to perpetuate the dream. my dream, anyway. And, I hope it's, something you guys want as well. As we are a family. Okay, I'm just pulling up some more. Let's see, how long did that story take? It was pretty lengthy. Oops, I don't mean to scroll the chat. 31 minutes. Wow, that was a long story. All right, so let's see what else I got here. I don't know how long any of these are. This one's pretty short. This one's coming out of New York. And this one has to do with sleep paralysis or the, God, that comes up a lot. Sleep paralysis is a huge issue for a lot of people. And, full disclosure, I've shared this on the show long ago, but I suffered from sleep paralysis for a period of about 2 years, and it was horrible. Not every night, but several nights a week. It was just terrible. Just needed to drink. All right. I was dreaming that I was in some sort of house with a huge amount of people, and, we were all at a blue table of some kind, and I had relatives and friends that were talking to me, and all of a sudden, I'm being picked up and thrown backwards into a wall. I was really freaked out because, honestly, it felt real. I felt myself above the ground and getting slammed. My friend's mother, named Celia, ran to me, while everyone else just looked surprised, and she put her back to my back and held my hands and told me to pray. So I did, and all of a sudden I felt like the thing wasn't there anymore. I just knew it was evil. Funny thing is, a few days before the dreams, I had put 2 candles in my house because of all the weird happenings, and one was to banish evil from the home, and the other was for the dead. They were prepared candles, and I'm guessing maybe the spirit was upset because I was trying to make it leave. I told my friend's mom about it, and because she happened to be with me when I bought it and lit the candles, and she also said a few prayers in my house to kind of help along the process. The whole thing has me really freaked out, and if anyone has any ideas, please let me know. Also, just a little background information, I've seen things my whole life, only shapes, never full forms of people, face, eyes, etc., just their auras or shadows, and I've heard things since I was younger, and I will take the time out to write about my other experiences, but right now, I just really need advice about this one. Thanks so much for taking the time to read it. Well, a candle in and of itself can be a powerful thing, but I think, again, it's kind of the same thing. Anytime you're cleansing, you don't just use one thing, you use several things, and hopefully the combination of several things, be that sage, sea salts, essential oils, herbs, burning specific herbs, cedar boughs, whatever, doing many things in a home in conjunction with a candle that's supposed to help get rid of evil, I think would be a great approach. And this person sounds like they just got a candle and lit it and went, okay, let's get rid of the bad stuff with a few prayers and a lot of good intentions. So I don't know, but I don't think relying on one thing, if you're really scared and you're really in a situation where you feel like something's going really wrong in your home, then don't leave it to chance. Cover as many bases as you can. And if you can't, find people that can. There's a lot of spiritual practitioners that go and do this stuff for free. Most of them don't believe in charging hefty prices for it. Some do, and I'm not going to berate them for wanting to make a living, but this is one of those things that I'm not sure it's quite as right to charge for cleansings, because that's just kind of It's kind of just the right thing to do. I think you charge for other things, like maybe things that help people after the cleansing. And that's where you make your price up. But to, say, hey, $500 and I'll come in and cleanse your house. It's like, well, I can either get groceries or have my house cleansed. Which should I do? So I don't know, just my thoughts. But that seems to be the theme of the night, doesn't it? This one's coming from Indiana. God, Indiana almost comes up as much as Ohio. I guess it's because they're right next to each other, right? Must be the same kind of mojo going on in both those places. Excuse me. Oh snap! $500. I just pulled that number out of the air. I don't know what they charge for stuff like that, but all right. So let me see what's going on in Indiana here. When I was about 8, my family went in search of the lost graves of our ancestors. Hold on. I had to sniffle. We all have lost graves, and they're the ones that have been documented as being in one town, and they're actually in the one across the bay. This happens to those who have gone long before us, and there was no real documentations of marriages or births or deaths. And not everyone chooses to spend a 2-week family vacation looking for them, as my parents did. But my father has been into his genealogy for as long as I can remember, and I wonder if finding out that one of his relatives was a real live pirate had anything to do with that. I guess we can't all wear the white hat. Our 4-unit family went to Eagle Harbor, Michigan, USA, to stay at the Jennison's Hotel right on the lake. I don't recall the name of the hotel, but the Jennisons had been there for my parents' honeymoon and were still there for our vacation. There was a delightfully scary cemetery just down the road, and the hotel loaned out bikes to their guests, and as my father was not going to check out the cemetery until the next day, I thought I would go get a head start, and wouldn't it be marvelous if I could help him in his search? The fence was laying on its side like an old tired-out sentry, and the gate was hanging on a hinge that promised to let loose the moment someone touched it. And all I knew was that the cemetery opened almost as soon as the town was formed. So I was looking at over 200 years of history written in stone. The only warning I had was flitting around in my head, and all it said was to watch out for the sunken graves and to give them a wide berth. That may have just been the remnants of the coaching of my father, but it felt different. I heard a male's voice, so to be quite honest, I walked towards the sound, and I was hoping to find a caretaker, or at the very least someone who could give me a bit of information about the cemetery. I was a newcomer to the wonderful world of cemetery gazing, and I thought I might need some tips that did not come from my father. I mean, how much could he possibly know that someone else didn't? In the back of the cemetery was a chicken wire type fence that protected 20 to 30 plain white wooden crosses. There was no gate. You just sort of unhooked the end of the fence from the beginning of it and pulled it out far enough to walk in and then refasten it. The first thing that struck me was the silence in the fenced-in areas. Aside from the male voice carrying on a conversation with a voice I couldn't hear answer, there was no other noise. No rodents through the dried leaves, no birds in the trees, no crickets calling to one another, nothing. Standing inside the chicken wire fence, I turned slowly, a bit confused. Okay, I was really confused. There was no writing on any of the crosses, no names, no dates, or soothing words to loved ones left behind, marked graves for unknown persons. And I noticed the man who owned the voice then, and he was sitting beside a fresh grave, holding on to what looked like daisies, just talking about everyday things. I assumed he had just recently lost a loved one, so I left him be with his private emotions and went back to the crosses. Upon exiting that gate, I noticed a sign that I hadn't seen before, and it said quite simply, "Colored." I grew up knowing about racial differences and even locked in a basement during the Detroit riots, but I was caught completely off guard. Good Lord. We've not come far enough that my neighbor of color and my neighbor of peach could not find a resting place beside each other. Angry, I went to talk to the man at the grave, and he told me that we may be equal in God's eyes, but man is still having problems filling in the other colors. So we spoke for a while, and then I took my leave, and I got about halfway back through when I realized that I should have asked his name. Being young, I went back to ask. I found no new grave. I found just a few rotten boards sticking out of the ground where the crosses had once been. The graves were overgrown with vines, brush, and blueberry plants. Under all the dead leaves, I located some rusty chicken wire. I ran like the guardians of hell themselves were after me. I tripped over a marker, bounced off another, fell on a couple more, and jumped the outer fence onto the bike and headed back to the hotel with flames belching out of the back tire of that poor Schwinn. After excitedly telling my father what happened, he took me back there, and this is not to say he believed me. He didn't, but he was set on proving to me that my imagination would only lead me to trouble. He explained that there could be no new graves as this was an inactive cemetery, and there were no rows of crosses as he researched it all the night before. All was as he stated. Walking through the cemetery, there were no signs of anyone having been there for quite a few years. All except the skid marks of little feet and piles of leaves where the skid marks ended, and my father's great-great-great-aunt's grave, and that of her baby, who were supposed to be buried in Eagle River, that I had uncovered when I tripped over one and bounced into the other. I still can't explain what may have actually happened that day in that sun-drenched cemetery. I researched for years, and all that I came up with for the crosses was a documented and well-cared-for site of a Tom Brown. His wooden marker says simply, Tom Brown, colored, died '05. The date may be wrong, as there were several accounts of this sailor who actually passed on a voyage to Michigan, and his body was laid to rest here. I don't think I fell asleep. I was not unaccounted for long. What happened? Does anybody have a similar experience that could shed some light on this? You know, it sounds like a time slip, to be honest with you. Not that we couldn't have spiritual experiences of that magnitude, but to affect not only everything you're seeing, but to, have a conversation with somebody that wasn't really there. That's a hell of a manifestation for just a spiritual experience. So it does sound like a time slip, to be honest. That's pretty wild. I was thinking about covering some time slips tonight, and I guess I did, even though I didn't intentionally. All right, let's see. What do we got? I got to check the time, see if we're on schedule here. We got about 10 minutes left. Let's see. This one's pretty, I'll do these two. Yeah, that'll be about perfect, actually. I got 2 stories left for you. So this one's coming out of Colorado. I don't believe in ghosts, and I still don't to this day. It's nothing personal and nothing against those who do believe in them, but my own beliefs just don't allow it. But I do have a couple unexplained stories from my past, and I don't know if they have logical reasons or if they're just dreams. I'm curious about your honest opinions nonetheless, and I'm writing for answers. I was really into Goosebumps when I was younger, and I was watching a movie made from one of the books about a piano where the ghost in the book is just a pair of hands and plays the keys. The song in it was really haunting, and later that night, I'm asleep, and I hear the piano playing that song outside of my bedroom. It was down the hallway in the sitting room, and so I get up and I can still hear it as I walk down the hall, but when I get into that room with the piano, it stops. I run back into my room, and get back in bed and it starts again. Of course, by this time I'm terrified, so I just suffer there in bed listening to it until it finishes, and I go to sleep with my light on. I'm thinking it was just a dream from being scared by the movie, but then why do I remember opening the door and feeling the floor on my feet when I investigated? My second story that convinces me more than the first. We had 4 black cats. No, I'm not superstitious. These cats brought more luck than misfortune. And when a couple of them had died, I used to see shadows out of the corner of my eye, like a cat jumping on a counter or crossing into another room. But no cat was there when I looked again. My mom said it was just because I was used to seeing them. When my favorite cat died, that I had been very close to all my life, I swear I could still feel her jump on the end of my bed at night and lie down. I would sit up sometimes to pet her or feel for her, but, of course, nothing. Since then, both these instances, I have never seen hide nor hair of a ghost, and after my mom told me about the cats, that the cats were just my imagination, used to seeing them run around, I stopped seeing that as well. But were these real encounters, especially with my beloved cat? I'm going to go with sure. My mom had a dog that she was just extra close to and was a really special relationship they had, and the dog got sick and passed away. It was really tragic and really hard, and she still tells me to this day that she still feels that dog jump up on her bed and walk around like he always did, and suddenly she'll feel a plopping of this little dog plopping down, and then it's like it's like he's still there. So I don't know. I kind of like the idea of these pets that are such a part of our heart, are always with us, just waiting to cross that rainbow bridge together. That famous story. I think it's a beautiful story. And maybe they do. Maybe they become our spirit animals after they pass and act as spiritual protectors. I don't know. God knows I need a few. So it's a good thing I've had a few pets in my day. All right, so this one is coming out of South Carolina. My husband and I used to live in a small 2-bedroom house in the country, and we preferred sleeping in the back, slightly smaller bedroom due to the reduction in road noise and morning sun. And one afternoon, as I was lying on the bed with the books on my laptop, I rolled over to rest my neck and noticed the ceiling fan slowly turning. Strange, because it was turning so slowly, even slower than it would on low, and stranger since I didn't have the fan on anyway. I watched it until it stopped, not more than a minute or so. Nothing really scary. It didn't feel strange or threatening, or any of the other feelings you supposedly get with the supernatural encounter. But it was an old house, so it could very well have been some type of electrical surge which caused the fan to start turning. However, the lights didn't dim, and it never happened again. So there's a small chance it could have been a draft since the house was old, but all the exterior windows and the doors were closed. Afterward, I began to notice our dog wouldn't come into that room. She'd stare into it, she'd walk by, she'd stand in the doorway, but she would never come in. And as I began thinking about it, I realized she had never come into that room. She had never followed us in there at night, or napped under the bed, or sat with me as I was working in there. Prior to the fan incident, she'd stand in the doorway and bark. Only a few times, I remember, and I just chalked up that to the window being directly opposite the door, and I assumed she was barking at the shrubs blowing around, or a bird on the sill, or something outside. And as I said, it rarely happened. Putting together the fan turning on its own and the dog's trepidation to enter the room, I began doing some investigating, and I know a bit about the home that we had bought. We had bought it from my husband's father, who bought it from a friend. And after further digging, I discovered the friend's wife's mother had actually built the house in the 1960s. Not really so old, so I felt that I was at a dead end. However, I also discovered that the mother had lived prior to that in a much older home, circa 1800s, and I was told, which wasn't much more than a barn-type structure when she began construction on the new home. Since the owners didn't have much money, some other older neighbors remember the house being built, and apparently it was a big ripple that someone of their class could build a brand new house. So I'm thinking I'm onto something. I tried to talk to the previous owner's mother, and she didn't have any comments about which bedroom her mother used or where she had passed, or anything about the much older house on the property. Very tight-lipped about the whole situation, and I didn't feel it polite to push, as she seemed still upset by her mother's passing. However, I did find out that she grew up in the newer house, and her older siblings were raised in the old one. Courthouse records showed the land and a home, but was hand-drawn without exact measurements of where the house stood. All we ever found of the house were a few stones from the porch, a couple of pieces of broken china washed into a gully, and some rusty tools buried in what would have been the front yard. And from this, we had an idea of its approximate location. It never really set right with me, the happenings I witnessed, the dog's reaction, the mother's refusal to speak of the house. We moved to the family farm in the same area a couple of years later, and it still took me a few years of riding by that house to realize that the bedroom window, which the dog would bark at, would have been directly perpendicular to the front yard of the old house. This was before the digital imaging ghost hunting movement, and I so wished that we had the opportunity or foresight to have taken some photos. The mother moved from Chicago and built a house in a nearby area and has a mural of her mother's house or our previous home in her sitting room. And I can't help but have the feeling that if the daughter loved this home so much to this day, perhaps her mother did too. Perhaps she never wanted to leave something she had worked and waited so long for. That's good points. And I think that might just be our episode. It's 52 minutes, so I guess we're right about on schedule here. Again, make sure, ladies and gentlemen, you check out World Bigfoot Radio, Duke Sullivan's channel here on YouTube, and check out the episode he just finished because it features me. It features me, so I hope it turned out good. I had a lot of fun doing the show with Duke, and it was a great conversation. And again, there's photos that I've included that should be in the video, and hopefully that'll demonstrate pretty clearly some of the things that I've seen and checked out as far as Bigfoot is concerned, and my UFO footage. But you guys have probably already seen that 100 times or more during the breaks, because it's the video of the UFO stuff. The green footage in there is my footage of the UFO that I took outside of my house. Just in May of, well, I guess it was about a year ago. It was a year ago, I guess it was a year ago. May of 2018. So about a year ago now. So anyway, check it out. Again, our podcast is coming out tomorrow. The Monday's episode is about poltergeists, the poltergeist phenomena. So please check it out. Wherever you get podcasts from, you can find the Paranormal Portal podcasts. Special thanks to Revolver Podcast for making this possible. And I guess that about does it for me tonight. Thank you guys so much for being here. I love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other, help each other out. Find the magic in every day, and remember to laugh as much as you can. I love you guys, and sweet dreams.